Hello, my friends. Today is June the 15th, and this is a psychic reading for you if this is your birth date. This is a 4 card poll to cover the year to follow. It's about a 6 to 10 minute long reading at times, sometimes longer, sometimes shorter. But, anyways, I do psychic readings, I do healing work, been doing it for 38 years. Check out my credits. I do internet readings as well as a lot of work out of my place in Albuquerque, New Mexico. So, anyways, this is a 4 card pull, a general energy card for the year, a challenge you might face this year, an action to take to stay in balance, and an outcome or synopsis card. The general energy or general reflection card of the year is agape. And agape is about um, that sense of awe when we look outside and our mouths fall open to the sense of wonder and beauty and connection and joy and upliftment and that feeling of just connectedness to nature or to beauty or to kind acts or to service, to the giving and receiving of love and light and joy and upliftment and praise and song and um, dance, so many different things that bring us to agape, to that sense of brotherhood, to that sense of love for others, to that sense of spiritual devotion, loving devotion, spiritual devotion. And agape often wants us to look at, what are we devoted to? What are we devoted to in our lives? Do we remember that agape in its largest form is that deepest connection to our spiritual selves, which has to involve others? And if we shut ourselves off and ourselves down, and we forget about those healing needs of our own hearts, are we giving ourselves agape? Are we really giving ourselves the ability to have joyful experiences in life? And are we sitting in our own misery if we're not opening ourselves up to this vast connection, this deepest of connections, that is about connection to each other in a positive and loving and awe-struck way. It's hard to get to those awe-struck ways for many of us, but we really need to open our hearts and open our possibilities and stop seeing things in cut and dried ways, so cut and dried that we lose the possibility of connecting with anyone else. So that's, I think, what agape is ultimately about, remembering that depth of connection. So here's your particular challenge, June the 15th, folks. Justice. So something about law, legality, fairness, equality, equitability, the sense of balance in one's life. The old, is your soul a stone or is your soul a feather? And if you put a stone on one side, it represents a hard and closed in soul, and you put on the other side the feather, which represents the lightness of being that we wish with agape. Then will the stone win, or will the feather win? And the stone will often drag it down, and the feather will lift it up. And that's really kind of what you're looking at, what's lifting you up versus what's dragging you down. It may not be an easy time legally. It may not be an easy time, I think, ego wise on some levels. It may, smash at your sense of yourself, sense of your place in society, the sense of your self as or something or someone worthy of getting ahead and positive possibilities and fair outcomes. In the very least, this is about fairness in Libra, the scales, the weight of one's soul. So here again, agape, what are devoting yourself to? I think the challenge is to not devote yourself to the lower energies of resentment and rage and anger that can drive you, you know, and not things that you're going to act out. I mean, those things are in us when we don't feel unfairly treated, but we have to also bring ourselves back to remembering that we don't have to devote ourselves entirely to that rage. We have to find those places of agape in ourselves so we can lift ourselves up and allow more possibilities to come in. Because if we sit in the bottom of our anger and our resentment and our fear of abandonment and our fear of injustice and our own questions of our worthiness and our own questions of our righteousness, all those things can be very disruptive. And I think that's your challenge, is to have something like that going on for you while you're also needing to be in this place of remembering that that's just not all of you. You're not just that thing and that episode. That if you keep expanding your agape self, your open self, your connected self, and your pleasure self, and your connection self to others and energies, then that can help find a way to balance your energies as you go through this energy of finding justice and finding equality and looking for fairness and looking at your own self through those mirrors. So what is the action you need to take? Well, it's whale. Whale has a lot of possibilities here. My first thought is whale is the record keeper, timeless being diving down to the bottom of the ocean, greater than most other critters can do. So it's been given this record keeper energy of, to contact the whales is to remember your past. Maybe not just your past, but maybe the past of your family and your clan and your line, and maybe just of humanity, period. So, it's a good time for some deepening of some kind of looking at the past. Maybe this is your own pain that you're diving into, holding your breath, diving down, getting a good view of things, hanging out with your own pain on some level. What caused this fear? The different fears that might be running through this time period. Is there a time in your own life when you felt unworthy and abandoned? Is there a time in your own life where someone weighed the scales and smashed you down, but not fairly? Is there a time when you did that to someone else? In the senses of, all right, now you have to learn about hypocrisy and compassion. Maybe this is those understandings that say, well, remember, you did the same thing, so don't be so harsh. Or this is totally unfair and they're being a bully, and what do you do with bully energies? Well, you have to remember yourself and remember what do you want to hold as your integrity. And a lot of people, when the agape is in mind, you remember that you really want to live in peace and harmony and joy, and you want to live in wonder, and you want to live at the majesty of life, and you want to be treated fairly and think that you are a piece of that life, that vitality of the world that says you're an equally needed being that needs to be respected, and you have a right to stand up for what you stand up for. You have a right to go forward with a sense of humility, but a sense of honesty and a sense of looking for equality and justice and fairness in the world. And because that's the world we wish to see. That's the world where agape really rules, where that right to be is there with everyone's right to be and to pursue their life and their liberties and their senses of happiness. So Whale says, go deep into your own soul, if that's where the work is called, but also it might be about looking at records. You might need to look at records, a record keeper. You might get really good clarity about legal situations by looking at the records. There's a lot there, and there's a lot more ways to find things. You have to work sometimes, and you really have to dive deep sometimes, and hold your breath sometimes, and come back up and blow it out of you, blow out the ugliness and the pain and the the questions out of yourself. Keep changing your breath patterns is another way for these cards to work together. Look to heal yourself through your breath patterns. What does that mean for you? Learning how to take 3 really deep breaths and keep grounding yourself can get you out of some crazy headspaces that you might get into, that we all might get into, under these questions of justice. So learn how to help yourself by working with your breath. Maybe that means exercising. Maybe that means doing yoga. Maybe that doing some meditation. Maybe that's just conscious breath actions. But the whale, I think, in a lot of ways says deep meditation, deep breath work, deep exploration of self, deep exploration of records, both inside and outside of self. It's all there somewhere. I just got to find it. And here's the outcome card. Don't be afraid to ask questions of those beings who show up with some light on their faces that might have answers for you, or that at least might help you to return to that sense of agape and wonder and awe in life. Don't close yourself off to the magical beings around you. Don't close yourself off to the guides, the guardians that are there, the guides that are there to teach you, physical beings as well as spiritual beings, and look toward the bigger pictures, look toward the bigger understandings, look toward the bigger connections. Remember agape, and remember that karma works, and the return of good for good deeds beget good back unto you. It's always going to be doing that. So keep aiming for the highest, and keep remembering you're holy and sacred, and you will get through this. You will get through this, and it will be what it is, and you'll be able to accept what it is a lot better if you do some of these practices, listening to yourself, listening to others, listening to healing work, seeking fairness and justice, and remembering the agape part of your soul that really is in awe of life, remembering how to get there, remembering how to connect there, remembering how to rise into that more sacred union of self in the biggest pictures possible, I hope.